What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, put it on all as usual. So let's get into this one. Just finished watching not too long ago, Joe the Juggernaut Joyce versus Joseph Parker. Yeah, this was a fight of two guys who don't really do the trash talking thing, but I, along with all you who watched it, would have been hoping that, the action happens in the ring. And I must say that, yeah, overall, this was a fight where there was no real disappointment in it. It really did live up to the billing. It wasn't much hype around it or whatever, but it certainly was a very good fight, a very entertaining fight. And it was one of those where it started as it meant to go on, because as it started, you had Joyce sort of starting with this awkward little movement, sort of moving to his left awkwardly. He was using his jab very effectively, as from the first bell. Parker was immediately sort of put onto the back foot from the word go. So they literally just started as they meant to go on. So it started Joyce just sort of pushing Joseph Parker back. Although Joyce didn't throw that much in the first round, he was able to still show that he's the boss and sort of show that he's in charge of the fight, because what he was doing is, and this is the pattern throughout the fight, he was putting on the pressure with his feet and sort of walking Parker down and cutting him off, making sure that he's got nowhere to go, and kind of forcing Parker into corners, forcing Parker to have to work, or to have to at least be sort of thinking all the time, and to, he made it difficult for Parker from round one. And it's funny with Joyce, because I think he has got kind of slow hands. The hands are quite slow. He's not like a fast, sharp guy, but he's quite quick with his feet. He's like deceptively quick with the footwork. And as this fight wore on, the best moments Parker would have would be these sort of short bursts. So Parker, you could see from early, he was looking to sort of fight in bursts. In the first round, he had a good little few bursts, but you could tell that the overall pattern was one man set the pace in this fight, and that man was Joyce. So Joyce really just set the pace and made it uncomfortable for Parker. And it was, the more this fight went on, the more sort of worrying it got for Joseph Parker, because Parker, he looked kind of fatigued. And you're talking from as early as, I want to say, if I'm remembering correctly, sort of round 3. And while he would be able to sort of land some good counters, he was able to land some good uppercuts during this fight, good sort of overhand rights and stuff like that. Predominantly the pattern of this fight was that Joyce coming forward, using a good jab, as he did against Daniel Dubois, just putting that jab out there, making you work, and he succeeded from very, very early to sort of make Joseph Parker very tired and sort of fatigued. And as I say, round 3, round 4, these early rounds, you could tell that Parker was already quite fatigued. And it just went on and on of Joyce landing shots. And Joyce was very clever in the way he won this fight, because he wouldn't just be all head hunting. He worked the body very well. He was able to get those lovely, I think it's the right hook was his good shot. He would land to the body several times, and you just saw how tough he was in this fight. I mean, Parker, hit him belt line, and there was a few low blows that I don't think the referee noticed. And you can tell how much of a warrior Joyce is, in that he didn't even really bother. He got hit low. You could see it about twice or whatever, but he didn't even bother him. It didn't make the slightest bit of difference. And the problem Parker kept having was, he was always on the back foot. He was always under pressure. He was always fighting at Joyce's pace. And number 2, even the success he did have, it looked out of desperation. It looked like he was sort of fighting out of desperation, and all that he did, all the success he did have, just sort of bounced off Joe Joyce. As I think it was the commentary was saying, Richie Woodall or somebody was saying, it just bounces off Joe Joyce, and they were saying on the BT commentary that the man doesn't even blink. You hit him with your best shot, doesn't even blink, and that was the problem for Parker. It was that he had to, due to his stamina or whatever, he had to just work and try and fight in bursts. But it was all while he was under immense pressure on the back foot. It was all trying to work while he's in the corners and all this sort of stuff. And it was like, even when he landed, you could tell these were hard shots Joseph Parker was landing on Joyce. It just wouldn't make a dent. And then you see Joe Joyce come through, do his work, back Parker up, and he just keep going and just keep going and going and going. And Parker was always just sort of fighting off that back foot. There were many times in this fight where Parker was sort of taking walks and walking around and trying to take breathers, and sometimes it was like he was sort of turning his back on Joe Joyce. But the thing was, none of that worked. No matter how he tried to take a breather, he couldn't take a breather. No matter how he tried to take a walk, wherever he walked, wherever he went, Joe Joyce was there. Joe Joyce was on him. And then it went from bad to worse. Joyce just putting the pressure on him, landing these good body shots, good head shots, and combinations. Even though he's like an optical illusion, Joyce, he seems quite slow, but he was landing combinations on Parker, and then Parker would only have these little bursts, these little 20-second bursts of he won maybe a few rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds in there maximum, I don't know. But all his little bursts of activity would be, it's like Joyce just poured cold water on it, because whatever Parker did, Joyce was back on him, throwing more punches, and it's like Parker's work bounces off of Joyce. But then when Joyce goes to work and when Joyce starts landing these shots, you can tell that it's damaging Parker every single time, and you could tell that it's weakening Joseph Parker every single time he works. It was taking energy out of Parker. It was weakening Parker. The guard was just lower and lower and lower. I think it was round 8 where they came together. Joyce landed and instant, as a cut over I think it was over his right eye, and that was in about round 8, and I was writing him, I noticed that, what else is going to go wrong here? He's under pressure, he's losing the fight, all of his, basically his heart got broken because obviously whatever good work he done, as I said, Joyce just poured cold water on it, and he threw the harder shots and everything. So you throw something hard at him, you land a good combination, you look good for a few seconds, then Joyce comes in and just overwhelms you and breaks you down even more. And that's what happened. The cut comes in the 8th round. Joyce just keeps having these dominant rounds over and over again, and then we get to the final round that the fight ended in, which was round 11. Again, Joyce just stalks Joseph Parker, comes after him, and then it's bang, good night, left hook. And it was a good, impressive knockout by Joe Joyce, because it was one where, he just he put his weight into it, put all his power into it, and it was just a one-punch KO, and he just basically just took the life out of Joseph Parker. Lethal left hook, and it was a good one because it was as he's coming forward and he just led with the shot, no jab, no nothing to set it up, no setup at all, just bang, just beautiful left hook, and that ended it. You could see as soon as that punch landed, it kind of took the life, took all the air, took everything out of Joseph Parker. So yeah, excellent performance by Joe Joyce. He was able to just walk through anything and everything Joseph Parker threw at him. It was, as I say, he just made it into his own fight. It was brilliant performance by him because he just set his own pace. He worked at his own pace, and he made the fight his own. He just completely sort of dominated and beat up and broke the heart of Joseph Parker. Very impressive by Joyce, and it'll be interesting to see what he does next. According to Frank Warren, he should have a crack at the WBO title at some point next year, 2023. Because this fight was one for, I'm not sure if it was for the mandatory or whatever, but yeah, it was one that puts you in pole position to fight for the WBO. So depending on, well, it looks like he'll have to wait probably at least a year for his opportunity if it does come about, because that's all going to depend on whether or not Tyson Fury fights Usyk and when Tyson Fury fights Usyk, or if you never know, if Tyson Fury fights Joshua, there's an upset there, then that just throws it all up in the air and there'll be a rematch and blah blah blah. So it'll be interesting to see who Joyce fights next. But one thing I will say is that whoever he does fight next, he gives a hell of a lot of problems to whoever that fight is going to be. So anyway, let me know what you thought about this dominant display by Joe the Juggernaut Joyce in the comment section below. And until next time, it's MKO Pugilism over and out.